All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I begin in the name of God, the most merciful, the most kind. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. And I greet you with a greeting of peace and mercy from your Lord. Assalamu alaikum. Firstly, thank you. Thank you for the invite. It's been a long time since I've been at Imperial and given a talk at Imperial College. It's a very nice university. Thank you to the organisers. I think it's very easy for a speaker to come in, like me, to come in and stroll in and we just do our talk and off we go. And that's the easy bit. But actually, you know, you guys have got to organise we've got to have the idea, and you've got to organise the venue, and you've got to sort out the posters, and you've got to make sure people are actually here, and you've got to sort out the pizza, and make sure the speakers know what they're doing, and etc., etc. So it takes a lot of work, so thank you to the organisers. And thank you most for the topic. Because when I sort of sat down and began looking at this topic, it just acted as a reminder of what an absolutely dignified and beautiful deen that we belong to. Because I was able, Brother Sami suggested, wanted me to go through it through the Qur'an and the Sunnah, the notion of communication from those two sources. And I went through and I looked at the Qur'an and Sunnah again, and just like every time you go to it, it's like something new, something beautiful is there. And to see and marvel at the beauty and dignity of our faith. And I had to wonder, why then is Islam perceived as ugly and aggressive? And I'm still pondering that question, and I suppose we can answer, oh, it's the media, Islamophobia, that's why nobody knows how good it is. But I think that there's also a sense of, when we point a finger, 3 point back, what are we doing? How are we communicating to show the people the beauty, the nobility and the dignity of this deen? What are we doing to communicate the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet? And I think we need to all ask ourselves that question, because truly this is a beautiful deen. Right. So, as I say, not really a PowerPoint person, but we will give this a go. Oh, goodness gracious. So what is communication? Let's go to the Oxford Dictionary. It's always a good place to start. The imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, by writing, or using some other medium. We can go on to the other mediums later on. A general, but it's imparting, i.e. it's a one-way, but it's also an exchange. Communication can be a two-way street. Right, let's start. God communicates. Bottom line, we're Muslims, we believe in an interpersonal God who has communicated to His creation. This communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us has been going on since the beginning, from Adam alayhi salam to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in a lineage of prophets. 124,000 prophets, only 25 of whom are named, but to all people a prophet in their own language. So, part of communication is that it has to be within the sort of linguistics of the people, the cultural specificity of the people. It has to be something that they will recognize, because Allah sent to every people a prophet in their own tongue. Right? God communicates through His revelation. And I'm using the word ayah as a verse of the Qur'an, because Qur'an is God's communication to us, we know that. And in the ayah, there's signs, meaning signs, but there is another form of sign, and that is the natural world. So God is communicating through the natural world. Both of these require a sensory experience. So we either, in our relationship, in order to absorb this revelation from God, it's a sensory experience. We see it, we hear it, we speak, we touch, we smell within the natural world. So it's a sensory thing. And communication is taking part of all of our senses. And we use them, we don't even recognize that we're using them, and the interplay between them. How that smell and memory are the most associated senses. And so when you go into a supermarket, for example, they will have you smelling beautiful bread because they want to communicate a homeliness about it, a warmth. They will have music going on there to give your brain a sense of distraction. They're communicating messages to you in a subliminal way that you're not even necessarily assured of, but it's a full sensory experience. Right, he created us as communicable. I know the word for you. I was thinking to myself, am I going to actually get that out? Just using 2 verses here. He taught Adam the names. And he taught Adam the names of all things, and he placed them before the angels. He said, "Tell me the names of these if you are truthful." They said, "Glory be to you. We possess no knowledge save what you have taught us. Indeed, you alone are all-knowing, the wise." He said, "O Adam, inform them of their names." When he had informed them, God said, "Did I not tell you that I know what is unseen in the heavens and on earth, and I know what you reveal and what you hide?" Knowing the names is a form, it's cognitive understanding, it's communication. Adam's communicating. Let's look at the 2nd verse. "O mankind, behold, we have created you out of a male and a female, and have made you into nations and tribes, so that you might come to know one another. Verily, the noblest of you in the sight of God is the one who is the most deeply conscious of him. Behold, God is all-knowing, all-aware." And if you look at that, this notion of nations and tribes, again, goes back to the idea of specificity, cultural specificity, that there's differences. But that the art of creation is to know one another. That there is an exchange of ideas in order to get to know one another, to find out who we are. It's a natural thing within us that we want to find out. "Hello, Assalamu alaikum, what's your name? I'm so-and-so. What do you do? Where are you from?" And that exchange within the differences. And we're social beings. We can't do it alone. We're not hermits. Being a hermit isn't allowed in Islam. Running up to a mountain and hiding yourself. We can't do it. There's no monasticism. We have to be sociable beings, however difficult that is. Because, quite frankly, when you are sociable, when you do communicate, when you interact with someone, that's when the problems start. The misunderstandings, that person's getting on my nerves, that person, he's rude, that's when it's difficult. When you actually have to start to engage with another person. But, we see from the Qur'an, help one another, and this is important, because we're sociable and we can communicate with one another. As it says here, help one another. Helping one another to a virtue or a vice, though. Because it says, help one another in furthering virtue and God consciousness. And do not help one another in furthering evil and enmity. So you can communicate, you can engage, you can be sociable, but it can be for good, but it can also be for bad. And Allah's reminding us, do it for the good, don't do it for the bad. And then this is wonderful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. I've got so many slides to go through, I'm not going to be able to read out everything. This beautiful, beautiful hadith about the relationship to your neighbour. Right? Help him if he asks your help. Give him relief if he seeks your relief. Lend to him if he needs a loan. Show him concern if he's distressed. Nurse him when he's ill. Attend his funeral if he dies. Congratulate him if he meets any good. Oh, well done in your exam. That was fantastic. That kind of interpersonal relationship, or, you've had a baby, whatever the good is. Sympathize with him if a calamity befalls him. So, your relationship, that interpersonal. Commiserate with someone. Do not block his air by raising your building high without his permission. Excuse me, town planning there. Harass him not. Don't annoy him. Come on. Don't stalk him on Facebook. Give him a share when you buy fruits. And this is the etiquettes in this is so beautiful. And if you do not give him, bring what you buy quietly. And don't let your children, take them out to excite the jealousy of his children. Such beautiful adab, not like, no, look what I've got. But the beauty of just the sort of piety of action. Right, this is the communication triangle. So when you communicate, you're the source, you're the communicator. You've got a message, hopefully you're not just blandly talking about zilch. You actually got something to say. and you've got a destination, you've got an audience. Now the audience can then also give feedback to the source. So then it becomes an exchange. Remember, communications can be one way, but it can be two way. But this is the communication triangle. And so you need to work out, in this interplay between the three, what's going to happen. So you need to think, oh, I'm communicating, here's my message, there's my audience. What part of the message is going to reach the audience? What part of the message is going to make sense to the audience? That's the audience. They've got their nuances, their local custom. What do they need? How do I best, get through to them? In the marketing world, it would be segmentation. Well, this person's 18 to 24. This person's 24 to 30-year-old single female cat lover. So therefore we're going to, and they break it down. It's very, very specific, right? Zoned, mathematically zoned down. In order to know that is my audience, this is my message, pinpoint precision to them. How do we engage? Well, we just want to tell everybody about Islam in one single way. It's the best religion, so therefore, boom. Doesn't matter what that person is ready for it, whether that person's got an interest in it, how that person's, their background, what they're thinking. We need a little bit more sensitivity towards the audience, the message, and therefore you can determine things like mode of communication. Right, just a quick list, modern ways to communicate. Well, we sort of speech, writing, signs, and then you've got phone, email, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. They're the ways. There are a load more. Different types of communication. So we've got intrapersonal, conversation with yourself, right? As Muslims, we have to remember that conversation, that sort of like quiet time, where you're sort of like working out what you're doing with your life, where you are. Interpersonal, groups, cross-cultural, religious, organizational, business, your work, social, your friends, political, sort of engagement in government, and mass communication. There are a whole lot more as well. But so communication is not just one singular thing. It's many things, and you will have just the conversation you have with yourself, the conversation you have with your friends, the conversations you have with your parents, conversations you're going to have in a group, conversations you're going to have when you're outside of your comfort zone with a different cross-cultural, setting. Your religious conversations from your conversations in your classroom, they're always very different. The ones you're going to have, at an organizational level when you're at work, these are the different potentials, the different types of communication. But regardless of the ways and the types, one thing is for certain, we are accountable for every one of our conversations. As the Qur'an reminds us, not a word does he or she utter, but there is a watcher by him ready to record it. And it's not a flip camera or an Eddie roll or every single thing we utter, we will get back. And I think so we need to remember that it's not actually that frivolous. Even when we're being frivolous, this is it. This is being taken into account, and we will be held accountable for every word that we communicate. We're accountable, so where do we start? Good manners. My grandmother, manners make man, that was it, that was her mantra, Old school, in 1909 she was born, just out of Victorian England. Old school, severe manners, very pinpoint. That is the Islamic way. It's two beautiful hadith. The most beloved of God's servants to God are those with the best manners. And what's the best thing you can teach your child? No father has ever given a child a gift that is superior to good manners. So you can give him wealth, you can give him iPods and iTouches and Blackberries and the latest Apple Mac Air or whatever, your Nike trainers and anything else. You can't give your child, you can give him a education at Imperial College, you know. You can, and that's going to be expensive in a few years, let's face it. You can give him anything. But there's nothing better to give your child than good manners.